Alright, welcome to more modern magic. I'm going to be trying something new for the next little while. I've always been on record as saying that I felt like Stoneforge Mystic was really powerful for modern. Back when Stoneforge used to be on the ban list, I always thought it was a kind of dangerous card to let into modern. Not necessarily because I thought the power level of it was so high that it needed to be banned, but I always just felt like the ability to just slide 4 Stoneforge Mystic and 2 to 3 equipment into pretty much any deck that runs planes was just very powerful. And of course since then we've seen Stoneforge Mystic get unbanned and hasn't really done a whole lot. I still think Stoneforge Mystic is extremely powerful. I think that the ability to just slide these packages into almost whatever deck you want is a really powerful thing. And so I realized as I was thinking about what decks I wanted to be playing here, I should really put my money where my mouth is and try out Stoneforge Mystic in a bunch of different decks. So I'm gonna be doing this for a while. I'm trying to come up with a funny name for it, and I'm on Stoneforge Trials. We're just putting Stoneforge Mystic and Batterskull and Sword or two in a bunch of different decks, and we'll see how they perform. So what I put together is a Mardu Pyromancer. Mardu Pyromancer, the deck most people might be familiar with, kind of fell off a cliff after Faithless Looting was banned. But I think the deck still has some legs. Most of the deck is intact. I also think getting access to Lingering Souls is just a really powerful reason to want to play this deck. Lingering Souls also synergizing really well with Stoneforge Mystic, giving you 1/1 spirits that are really easily able to grab a sword and start getting in. So we're going to see how this deck goes. I had an interesting time trying to construct this deck. And I'm definitely not much of a brewer. I definitely much more likely to just grab a deck off MTG Goldfish or from wherever and run it through a league. But this deck is largely sort of my creation. I cobbled a few things together from a few different places. There's definitely some concessions you have to make. You're running Young Pyromancer, so you're trying to run enough instants and sorceries, but you're also running Stoneforge and equipment, so you're trying to figure out how to find enough creatures that are able to carry the equipment to actually do anything with it. There's a lot of different cards you can think about putting in a Mardu or mostly a red-black colored deck. I've seen a lot of lists with Croxa. Dark Confidant is a thing you think about doing. But ultimately, though, most of the things I'm trying to... the two main things I'm trying to optimize for here are having enough spells to trigger Young Pyromancer and having enough cheap creatures to be able to carry the equipment to get in with Stoneforge Mystic. So that's sort of the idea behind the deck. I'm sure a whole lot of things could be changed. I have no idea how to build mana bases, so this is just sort of what I cobbled together. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Also, sideboard. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But that's the idea behind the deck. We're going to take it. We're going to run it through a league. And we're going to see how the Stoneforge Trials go. Stoneforge Mardu Pyromancer. My hope getting into these trials is that I'll be able to showcase just a lot of the different places that you can put Stoneforge Mystic and this sort of package of equipment into. I've thought of a lot of different decks that you can try with Stoneforge. Really, any creature deck that runs planes, you can kind of slot it into. I've thought about putting into Eldrazi Taxes. I've thought about putting into any sort of company deck. There's really a lot of places I think it can go. So we'll see how it goes. We are on the play here. Yeah, I like this hand. I've got a lot of powerful cards. Could do without a land, but I think this is fine. Question, do we want to Thoughtseize turn 1 into Young Pyromancer? Do we want to play Young Pyromancer on 2 and try to trigger the Thoughtseize? I think we just want to play Thoughtseize now. Who knows if we're even going to really want to be playing Thoughtseize on turn 3. Alright. We're up against some sort of... This could be Grixis Death Shadow. This could just be some sort of blue-black pile of good cards. I'm not too worried about Fatal Push with Lingering Souls. It's not going to be good there. It will kill the Young Pyromancer. We can pressure pretty effectively with Lingering Souls. Snapcaster Mage is the most powerful card. Gurmai Gangler is something we're going to have a hard time dealing with, so I'm kind of inclined to take it here. Thought Scour, Thoughtseize is kind of whatever. I think we just want to take the Gurmai Gangler here since we're going to have a tough time dealing with it. Lingering Soul's a card that I think has just really not gotten enough love in Modern. I think creating 4 bodies for 1 card is very powerful. I think having it split across 2 spells is really powerful against control. It's not like they can spend 1 counter spell to deal with the entire thing. 2 1/1s provides a pretty decent clock. So I'm really excited also. Besides seeing how Stoneforge goes, I'm also just really excited to be playing Lingering Souls too. I think the card is very powerful. Fun taking Young Pyromancer, makes some sense. Also really excited to be playing with Seasoned Pyromancer. This is a card that I personally have not really had a chance to play with much. Here we're going to fetch a Sacred Foundry, just make sure we have all our colors. I guess our opponent is going to get value off their Fatal Push, but it's fine. We have to be casting this. Our opponent plays Bloodstained Mire. We already need to draw another land to be able to get any value off of any of the spells in our hand, unfortunately. It's not ideal. Alright. Still pretty okay with the situation. Any land is going to get us access to up to 8 1/1 flyers. Over a number of turns, of course, but... looks like this is going to be Grixis Death Shadow. There's Thought Scour. Lingering Soul is a pretty good card against Death Shadow. They can Team or Battle Rage it to be able to... So there's a couple of reasons Lingering Soul is really good against Death Shadow. One is that you can chump block their creatures. They tend to have a hard time getting through against 4 blockers. They can Team or Battle Rage it, but they're not always going to have the Battle Rage. The other thing is that Death Shadow is putting themselves at such a low life total that it's easy for the flyers to get in for lethal, or at least it's not necessarily easy, but it's a line that you are generally going to have access to. And so Death Shadow has to be really careful to play around that. Grixis Death Shadow generally is just very vulnerable to flyers. They don't run any flyers themselves, and for a deck that puts themselves to a low life total, like, I mean, it depends on the matchup, of course, but I've seen Death Shadow just voluntarily go down as low as like 3 or 4. Any sort of flying creature or just generally unblockable creature is going to have a really hard time against... Death Shadow is just going to have a really hard time against flying creatures. Our opponent's going to Thoughtseize away our Seasoned Pyromancer. Pretty sure they're not going to take away our Lingering Souls because they'll just let us cast it from the graveyard. They're going to grab Seasoned Pyromancer. There's a land. So we will pay 2 life, and it's kind of interesting if we want to play all these Lingering Souls, or if we want to play the Seasoned Pyromancer and just... because we're going to be able to discard the Lingering Souls for value. It's kind of a question as to how long this game is going to go on. I think I'm fine just to play out a whole bunch of Lingering Souls. Our opponent's not going to be able to deal with them efficiently. Yeah, so we're just going to go ahead and just cast the Lingering Souls naturally. If we played the Seasoned Pyromancer, we would be getting 4/4 worth of stats into play, plus 4 more flyers over the next turn or 2, and drawing a couple cards. But we're going to be able to draw the cards off Seasoned Pyromancer anyway. I like this line. What are we worried about from our opponent? I think just any big creature plus a Temur Battle Rage. Yeah, and so now we need to be kind of scared about getting our opponent too low, because right now our opponent, well, they can fetch Shock to make the Death Shadow 5/5, Temur Battle Rage make it hitting for 10. So maybe our line is just to hope they haven't found the Temur Battle Rage. Another Lingering Souls. Okay, at this point, now that they found a Death Shadow, maybe I'm more interested in playing the Seasoned Pyromancer. We also are really interested in finding an answer to this Death Shadow, be it a Fatal Push or some such. Yeah, because I'm kind of expecting the game won't go long enough for us to convert all these Lingering Souls. It would also be really nice to get another land so we could double flashback Lingering Souls. So we put our opponent to 9. I'm trying to think about the math of how many turns we could kill our opponent in, because we could get up to 6 spirits pretty quickly. I think now we'll go ahead and play the Pyromancer. And I think we can go ahead and attack. I think we're gonna, well, let's see. I'll do the math once we figure out what we're drawing. Sword of Fire and Ice. So we're not going to be able to equip that to anything yet. If we draw the land next turn, then these spirits put them to 9. They can fetch Shock to 6, which makes this a 7/7, which we could block. So I think we will attack here because we can still block to play around the Temur Battle Rage. We'll be able to jump for enough. This line really just depends on how much life our opponent wants to be losing. Okay, Thought Scour. I think our opponent may be just wanting to convert that before they crack the Pluto Delta. Actually, that's strange. It seems like they would want to crack the Pluto Delta before doing that. I guess maybe they're searching for more information to determine if they want to be losing life or not. So we are growing the Death Shadow. Sword of Fire and Ice here, worth an extra 4 damage. So right now our spirits are hitting for 2, but the land would make them hit for a total of 6. And we could Alpha Strike, so if our opponent attacks with anything, that could be a lethal attack. But we're just going to have to wait and see how they choose to attack. If we don't draw the land, we can just double flashback Lingering Souls and nearly set up a lethal attack. Also worth remembering that we have a Seasoned Pyromancer in the graveyard, which has this, it's not flashback exactly, but whatever it is, to get some more elementals. Okay, so our opponent's going in on this Death Shadow. Death Shadow is 6/6, a virtual 9/9 with the Pluto Delta, which is 18, and we're not going to be able to jump for enough, so there's no point in playing around Temur Battle Rage at this point. We can just jump with a single elemental if they attack. I'm not sure they can afford to attack at this point. We would be representing an attack for 3. I guess they can safely attack. At least they think they can. Playing as Death Shadow is always a really interesting experience. Yeah, so we can't play around Battle Rage here, so 6 goes up to 9, Battle Rage makes it 18, we can only block for 4 and take 14, so we're dead at Battle Rage. Opponent doesn't have it. Yeah. Okay, so I think we're doing pretty good here. If they haven't found it yet, we can just keep spinning up jump blockers with Lingering Souls, and then they... Like, I don't see a world where our opponent wins this game unless they're able to... I don't see a world where our opponent wins this game without finding the Battle Rage. Stoneforge, I don't think doing too much here. I think we just want to attack for 2 to 5, and then double flashback Lingering Souls, so that we'll have a lethal attack in the air next turn. Either way, we're definitely attacking with these spirits. And I think we just want to put 4 flyers on the battlefield. Maybe our opponent will, like, have some amount of removal for them? No. What would our opponent have in their hand? Can't imagine we want to play the sword. Stoneforge into Batterskull is, like, kind of interesting, but I think we're just on this. I guess one of these could get stubbed. Yeah, okay. Does that change anything? Because now the other Lingering Souls is not necessarily lethal. Stoneforge Mystic to get Batterskull at this point is kind of interesting. It also lets us put the sword in. That is interesting. It lets us put the sword in, equip the sword to a spirit. Because at this point, if our opponent doesn't attack, we don't have lethal. But if we play the Stoneforge and it lives, then we're fine. I feel like our opponent doesn't have removal, otherwise I think they would have killed a spirit. Yeah, I think we're going to try the Stoneforge here. Now that I think about this, this feels more wrong. Like, if the Stoneforge dies, like, the Batterskull is not doing anything for us. Really, the only thing that we're doing with the Stoneforge here is getting a 1-mana discount on our sword. Is the Batterskull relevant if our opponent attacks with Death Shadow? It could be, because it's going to soak up 4 points of damage. It's going to soak up, 8 points of damage, 4 for the lifelink and 4 for the 4 toughness. So Batterskull actually a really good blocker against a Battle Rage Death Shadow here. So part of the reason I made this play is because I intuited that my opponent did not have a removal spell, which meant that I expected this sword to live. And if our opponent doesn't have a removal spell, then we're going to be able to put the sword into play and equip the sword to a spirit, which is a way to get a lethal attack next turn. And once our opponent stubborn denied the first Lingering Souls, we didn't have a line that presented lethal the next turn. Now that I'm thinking about it, having a Stoneforge Mystic in play doesn't look amazing when compared to putting 2 spirits into play. Our opponent does have the removal spell. Given that our opponent had a removal spell, I'm pretty not happy about the line I took. I'm just surprised that our opponent would not have fatal pushed a spirit before now. Sword Fire and Ice still lethal if we draw a land. In theory, again, our opponent could always draw a removal spell. We do still have 2 Lingering Souls in the graveyard, so we can still make 4 spirits next turn. It's possible that I'm just focusing too hard on trying to present lethal this turn. I just feel like we're racing against our opponent finding a Temur Battle Rage. But maybe it's worth taking... Maybe it's worth being willing to take an extra turn to present a clock in order to just be taking better lines. Like at this point, our line wasn't going to present lethal this turn, but maybe our line just wasn't going to present lethal. Maybe our line just isn't going to present lethal next turn either. At this point, like, we can shock with a Godless Shrine, put the Sword of Fire, cast the Sword of Fire and Ice, equip the Sword of Fire and Ice, And in theory, that's lethal. In theory, it's lethal with only one spirit, so we can even leave a spirit back to block. So our opponent would need a removal spell to not die. Yeah, I think going for the win this turn is reasonable. We can basically play around our opponent having a removal spell, or our opponent having Temur Battle Rage. If we assume our opponent has a removal spell, we just double flashback Lingering Souls, attack for 3, and then we definitely have a lethal attack next turn. So it's just kind of fun to find the Battle Rage. I think we can just swing for 3 here and double flashback Lingering Souls. Kind of going back and forth on the approach I want to take to this game, but I think it's fine. I know from before, I think I mentioned that Batter's Goal was going to get us 8 life against Temur Battle Rage, which is not actually true because the Temur Battle Rage is going to give double strike, so we're not actually going to get any lifelink from the Batter's Goal. So never mind on that front. But this line, like, our opponent is definitely dead next turn at this point. I guess if they have, like, Stubborn Denial, and no, okay. Yeah, so this is just now a matter of if our opponent can find Temur Battle Rage. Battle Rage is going to make this a 20, or essentially hit for 20. It's going to be a Snapcaster for Thought Scour, probably. They can't get enough removal spells to not die next turn. I don't think, yeah. Thought Scour is indeed correct. Yeah, our opponent somehow has to deal with 4 spirits in order to not die, so they're just looking for Temur Battle Rage. I think most Death Shadow decks run 2. Although I do not really play Death Shadow, so couldn't exactly tell you. I wonder if this season Pyromancer should have been attacking. Probably not. It was just traded with a Snapcaster Mage. Stoneforge, not really doing too much for us this game. It was pretty much entirely the Lingering Souls that are carrying us this game. Still more cantrips. Opponent is milling us, which is fine. They've had a lot of looks at the Battle Rage. Sure, they're going to Inquisition us for information, I guess. They're going to see the Sword of Fire and Ice. And have they found it? Cool. So I'm counting this as a win for Lingering Souls. Stoneforge Mystic not getting too much done this game. As far as what we want here, Engineered Explosive's pretty good against Death Shadow. Celestial Purge pretty good against Death Shadow and Gurmag Angler. We need answers to those. Rabble Master, I think this is the matchup for Rabble Master. Brutality, not doing too much. Kaya? Kaya's actually pretty okay. It's another answer to Death Shadow. It kind of hurts their graveyard if they're trying to delve away a delve for a Gurmag Angler. It takes away their Snapcaster. Yeah, I like Kaya here. What do we take out? I think Kolaghan's Command kind of expensive. I don't think it's likely to be getting too much done. Protection from black is pretty good. I might cut a sword here. I'm not really sure how many equipment targets you're supposed to run with Stoneforge. Maybe since we're taking out a sword, we can take out a Stoneforge. I like Cling to Dust. Maybe Thoughtseize is not that great, actually. Actually, I don't know if Lightning Bolt is that good. I think Lightning Bolt is fine. Well, what is Lightning Bolt going to do? It's not going to kill any other creatures we really care about. It's mostly just pointing 3 damage at their face. Yeah, I actually don't really like Lightning Bolt here. I think we can bring in the K commands and the Thoughtseize instead. Thought's is just a good way to clear out a powerful card early. Maybe I want the Sword of Fire and Ice back in for Thoughtseize. I think we can try this. Okay, we have a Fatal Push for a Death Shadow, we have a Thoughtseize. Village Rites hopefully will get us something. This is a card that I'm really curious to see how this does. We can keep these 7. Our opponent is on 6. There is some thought to waiting till turn 3 so we can go Young Pyromancer Thoughtseize. Because I would really like to make sure that we have an elemental in play to be able to sacrifice to Village Rites. On the other hand, our opponent has no turn 1 play. I don't hate it, actually. I don't think our opponent... So I'm trying to think about the cards that we really want to Thoughtseize. Gurmag Angler, Snapcaster, Death Shadow. But I don't think they're going to play any of those this turn, so I think we can afford to wait for a turn. And I do really want to... At this point, I do really want to take the line where we're going to play Young Pyromancer and some spell on turn 3 because those Village Rites in our hand. It might not be Young Pyromancer Thoughtseize. Like, if we draw, like, Young Pyromancer and something else, then we can go ahead on Thoughtseize on turn 2. I still might Thoughtseize on turn 2, even if we don't have a spell to go with the Pyromancer on 3, but I can at least, at this point, wait a turn and see what happens. Our opponent filling their hand for Gurmag Angler really well, so maybe I did actually want to try to Thoughtseize to stop an Angler. If they have land, Thought Scour, Gurmag Angler, then they're going to be able to play the Gurmag Angler. That would be unfortunate. Opponent, 5 cards in graveyard. They can actually just cast a Gurmag Angler now if they have one off of 2 lands. So yeah, perhaps I'm not respecting the Gurmag Angler enough. Just gonna cycle a Street Wraith. Now they could have a Death Shadow. That we can at least Fatal Push. Okay. And no Gurmag Angler. Okay. Yeah, so they definitely don't have a Gurmag Angler in hand because they would have cast it there. They might have a Stubborn Denial. But their Death Shadow is only a 1/1, so I think we're just going to go land Fatal Push. And then next turn we'll do the Pyromancer Thoughtseize play. If we wanted to, we could Thoughtseize. Actually, we could Thoughtseize now. We could Thoughtseize and Fatal Push now, because next turn we can go Pyromancer Cling to Dust. Yeah. I don't know what we're hoping to Thoughtseize, though. Could just be a generically powerful card, like a Thoughtseize. Could be a Stubborn Denial. That's going to get something eventually anyway. Yeah, I like... Okay, so I like Thoughtseize first. I guess this is bad against double Stubborn Denial. It'd be very interesting if our opponent casts Stubborn Denial here. So we could pay for it, but then we're not going to be able to push the Death Shadow. Of course, our opponent doesn't know that. And indeed, they do have the double Stubborn Denial. It's kind of unfortunate. We don't really care about the removal spells. We're planning to play Young Pyromancer, which will die, but it's fine. We'll get some triggers off it. Village Rights. So I think we're just taking the Stubborn Denial to force through, try to force through Fatal Push. This Death Shadow, fortunately, not going to be able to grow right now. If our opponent top decks a fetch, that's unfortunate because then they'll be able to grow the Death Shadow to a 4/4, and Stubborn Denial will be fully active. Okay, so now our opponent's going to Inquisition. That's interesting. Do we need to Fatal Push now? Interestingly, like, we really don't want to cast this Pyromancer because it gives our opponent a target for the Dismember. We don't want them to have a target for the Dismember. So I think we're kind of actually okay with anything our opponent takes, in which case they're probably going to take the Fatal Push, and I think we want to... I think in that case we want to force them to spend the Stubborn Denial. It's a really interesting line the way this worked out. Yeah, we can't pay for it, but I think we do just want to get that out of their hand at this point. At this point, I think our opponent should actually take the Cling to Dust. Because the Village Rights is dead if we don't have a creature in play, and we can't cast the Young Pyromancer. I guess we could cast the Young Pyromancer and Village Rights the Pyromancer? But then we have a token left over that they can dismember. Now that the Stubborn Denial is gone, though, we care a little bit less about how big the Death Shadow is. We're just going to need to find an answer to it eventually, obviously. Sort of Feast and Famine is really interesting. It's kind of tempting to try to resolve that now. Then any creature, we can go play the creature and equip. And then it'll have protection from both Terminate and Dismember. I don't hate that. No, I do hate that. We're just going to, we're going to Cling a Stubborn Denial. Try to draw something relevant here. A push would be great. Engineered Explosives would be fine. Young Pyromancer. I mean, we don't actually want to cast that right now. This Dismember on our opponent's hand is a really interesting, it's really interesting. If we can get Sword equipped onto a creature, that would be really nice, but I don't see that happening anytime particularly soon. We really just need to draw an answer to this Death Shadow. A Lingering Souls would be totally fine here. Opponent drew basic land, which is not what they want to draw. They want to be drawing a fetch land. We just want to be drawing, ooh, Lingering Souls. Yeah, so this is going to let our opponent, this is going to activate our opponent's Dismember. But that's fine. They haven't found the Temur Battle Rage yet. This is going to make the Death Shadow 5/5. We can take a couple hits from it. And get a sort of Feast and Famine going. Yeah, this is definitely the line. And we probably Village Rights now, honestly. And I think we wait until our opponent pulls the trigger on the Dismember, actually. Because then we can sacrifice the one they target. And we'll still have a blocker up for the Death Shadow. Might actually not block the Death Shadow, because we have the, if we draw a land, we have the option of Sword Equip, but they'll have a Terminate up. Next turn, I think we go Young Pyro, Flashback Lingering Souls. Looks like a strong line. Equipment not being super effective in this matchup. So Stoneforge kind of failing trials in that regard. Okay, our opponent got a redraw. Opponent is targeting us, so they know what we're going to draw. Again, this Death Shadow virtual 5/5 because of the Dismember in our opponent's hand. Still really wish we'd been able to maneuver this game in a way to just get rid of the Death Shadow entirely. Thought we were going to be able to get it with that Thoughtseize on turn 2, but our opponent having double Stubborn Denial was pretty annoying. It's definitely an interesting, definitely worked out in an interesting way. I like our position here. We're going to be able to flashback Lingering Souls. We have a Sword of Feast and Famine. Should be able to start connecting with it before too long. It's interesting that our opponent is choosing not to attack here. I guess maybe they're figuring we could just block and then sack the Village Rites. Do we want to cast Village Rites here? We know our opponent's hand. Yeah, I mean, I think we just want cards. We just really want to draw an answer to this Death Shadow, so let's try to do that. Okay. Opponent drawing cards. This could be a Stubborn Denial. And we drew a Kolagon's Command. Is Kolagon's Command not actually able to kill the Death Shadow again because of the Dismember? I think our line is still Young Pyromancer, Flashback, Lingering Souls. Could also be like Young Pyromancer, Kolagon's Command to return Young Pyromancer. I feel like Kolagon's Command not great in our deck right now. I feel like it could have been boarded out. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and play Young Pyromancer. We're gonna flashback to Lingering Souls. See if this Young Pyromancer draws out the Dismember. No. And it's still kind of unclear to me if we want to be trying to deal damage to our opponent. We only have 3 flyers this game as opposed to the like many more we had in the previous game. So it actually represents a pretty slow clock. Opponent going to terminate the Young Pyromancer. Okay. I think our opponent is just playing pretty scared of these spirits. I think that's kind of what's going on. We know our opponent doesn't have... We know our opponent doesn't have the Teamwork Battle Raids because we don't know that. They have 1 unknown card. I think we kind of just have to attack. Like, we can't sit around for forever. do need to actually win the game at some point. What do we want to do with this Kolaghan's command? Like, we're never going to be able to snipe the Death Shadow with it. And I don't think our opponent's going to have an artifact, so it's basically just going to... We're basically just going to be trying to hit a card from our opponent's hand and getting back a Young Pyromancer, which is fine. We also have this sort of Feast and Famine that, you know, I'd like to try to be hitting our opponent with. I at least want to be casting it at some point here. We also have a Cling to Dust that can be exiling things, drawing us cards. Cling to Dust, really interesting card. Not a card that I would have ever expected to be seeing in Modern, but it just kind of does enough stuff. It also just one of the big things about Cling to Dust is it just gives you something to do with your graveyard. Like, you're exiling 5 cards to draw a card, but okay, so I'm actually kind of interested in blocking with 2 creatures here to try to force out the Dismember. Because if they cast it, then we can play the sort of Feast and Famine and start... Actually kind of want to triple block. So what is this going to do? If our opponent has 1 removal spell besides the Dismember... So if we just double block, then that forces our opponent to Dismember one of the creatures. It's going to make the Death Shadow 6/6, but then they've spent the Dismember, and we can play the sort of Feast and Famine, equip it to the Spirit, and start attacking. This also has the benefit of making the Spirit pretty much unkillable. I guess there's Bolt. If we double block and they top decked a removal spell like a Bolt or a Push, then they don't have to use the Dismember. If we triple block, we're forcing them to use Dismember, and we're trading all 3 of these cards or 3 of these tokens just for a Dismember. Which, if they have Dismember and another removal spell, is pretty bad. So if they top decked a removal spell, I don't really like this. So but I think I can double block, though. This is bad if they've drawn a removal spell, but we're only spending 1 Spirit on it, and I think that's fine. So we're hoping they don't just have a push for the Spirit. But if they do, it's not the end of the world. They essentially kill an elemental for free. So we'll see how this goes. Looks like they found... Oh, they're only taking 2. Okay, but they have spent the Dismember. Yeah, of course, right. So that's fine. Now Stubborn Nile's active against Sword. Okay. So we're going to cross our fingers now and hope this resolves. And that our Spirit isn't going to die in response. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. This Death Shadow is a virtual 7/7. If we attack, it's another 2. So there's no way we can attack here. Actually, no, there is, because we can attack. We can Kolaghan's command back a Young Pyromancer. No, we can't. Next turn we can. Next turn we can. If we had like a Seasoned Pyromancer in the graveyard or something, we could, because we could untap the lands and be able to get some elementals back. But we need a block. We need to be blocking Death Shadow at this point. Alright, what are we thinking about here? Probably trying to figure out if they want to fetch shock. Thought Scour, fine. Even if our opponent finds Temur Battle Rage here, that's fine because the Death Shadow becomes a 7/7, attacks for virtual 14, and we soak up 3 of it, so we'd still only be taking 11. Question, of course, is how we get our opponent dead. 3 attacks with the Spirit will do it, but we are going to need to be... Okay, so we should figure out what we're doing on our turn. Because we can Kolaghan's Command back the Young Pyromancer, play the Young Pyromancer, we can untap our lands and then Cling to Dust to get a Young Pyromancer trigger. Of course, top decking all these lands is not helping us. Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely... Our opponent has a card in hand, but we can make them discard it off the sword. Can actually deal 2 damage to them. Do we want to do that? Because the sword is going to make them discard the card. Is there anything else relevant it can do? Dark Plague discards a card. We can make them discard an upkeep, maybe. Doesn't seem especially relevant. I think actually what we do is we Cling to Dust now and then untap. So we'll take out... Terminate, I guess? Actually, cancel. We should leave red untapped. Cling to Dust. Maybe we'll hit Gurmag Angler. Actually, no, because we want it to hit a non-creature. Yeah. Sorry, cancel. We can get this right. Hit, terminate. Exile. Oh, this is going to exile our Young Pyromancer. Maybe we don't want to do this. Oh my gosh. What are we doing here? No, we fetch first. We fetch first is what we do. We're just going to put a Blood Crypt into play. Tapped. Now, finally, we can do this. Terminate. And we're going to leave Young Pyromancer. One remaining. Village Rites. Done. Okay, that took a long time. Celestial Purge. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So I think we should try to do this now. If they have Stubborn Denial, they get it. What is this here? Snapcaster Stubborn? Okay, they found a thing. That's actually really awkward that we decided to go with the Cling to Dust there, because the Cling to Dust could have hit the whatever they targeted. Yep, okay. We can still attack, get a trigger, untap our lands, K-command back the Young Pyromancer. Yeah. Because we can K-command Young Pyromancer and then equip to the Swords of the Pyromancer. This is still fine. K command then can kill the Snapcaster, which is something. It's fine. We untap our lands. We return target creature card, deals 2 damage to any target. Choose target creature card, choose any target. Pay this. Then we're going to equip the Sword of Feast and Famine to the Young Pyromancer. Okay. Worth noting our opponent's on 2.5 minutes on their clock. We won game 1. This is game 2, I'm pretty sure. If I'm not going crazy. Yeah. We win the match. Cool. So recap, how did Stoneforge do? Didn't do much early on, but Sword of Feast and Famine was great in that. It was solid in that game 3, game 2, last game. Did we lose a game? I don't think we did, but no, it's 2-0. It's on my screen. Yes, Stoneforge did fine. Lingering Soul is really the MVP. As I kind of expected, Lingering Souls is very good against Grixis Death Shadow. Alright. I was thinking we were going to have a bit of a shorter stream, but... So I was going to try to be somewhere at 10 o'clock, but I don't know if we can fit in 4 matches before 10, so we'll see here. We'll see when I finish this league. Mid-card promo. We will go first. This hand really not good enough. We really need a second land. We have Bolt and Push, but we're just not doing anything otherwise. This hand even worse. Can't even cast any of our spells. So we'll have to go to 5. This hand, okay. We'll definitely keep it. I don't think we need a 3rd land. And I don't think we need 2 discard spells. So we'll roll with that. I think we're going to want to find double red, so I think we need to get a Blood Crypt here. Double red for the Seasoned Pyromancer, and then we'll get white. It's going to be, unless we draw a land, it's going to be Blood Crypt, Sacred Foundry. See what we got here. Red, green, Ponza, apparently. Okay. So they're going to be ramping into a Gargaroth. I don't want an answer to that at some point. This is Forest Utopia Sprawl. Dreadbore, that's an answer to a Gargaroth. I guess we also want to be aware of Blood Moon. It's a card that they could run. They found a Clothis. Could actually be pretty annoying. I did not mean to not fetch there. That's annoying. Although maybe it's for the better, because I can fetch a Plains. No, I need to fetch a. I need to fetch a mountain anyway. And we could get a shock land, but mountain is fine. It needs to be red is the point to be able to cast the Seasoned Pyromancer. And that's going to be a shock. And unfortunately, they're just going to be able to... Yeah, they're going to be able to eat our Lingering Souls. But we're not going to sit around until we have 5 mana, so... It's just going to be a 2-spirit Lingering Souls. Our opponent might actually choose to get a land, so they can cast the Gargaroth this turn. Nope, they're gonna get the souls. Smart. There's a Stomping Ground, and we know they're gonna have another land for next turn. Yeah, they got a Scavenging Ooze too. That's annoying. Well, we're definitely gonna save the Dreadbore for the Gargaroth. That's a Batter Skull. That's interesting. Unfortunately, I don't think we can afford to cast the Seasoned Pyromancer here, because we need this Dreadbore for the Gargaroth. I would be willing to discard the Batter Skull to it, but we need to save the Dreadbore for the Gargaroth. So unfortunately, we're not getting much done here. I actually feel like I need to save these spirits to block the ooze, because this Colossus is going to kill us pretty quickly. And we're not really in a place where we're able to trade damage. This Colossus is going to be a really annoying clock. Okay, they drew another Utopia Sprawl, which means that this is still a Gargaroth. They drew another Misty too. Okay. There's the Gargaroth. It's fine. It's just a very silly card. That's also going to turn on the Clothis, which I did not realize. This is a situation where we would prefer to have a Terminate over a Dreadbore. I was kind of debating which one we wanted. I think I just want to trade with the... I think I just want to trade for this. We're taking a lot of damage there, but I think Scavenging just needs to die. Yeah, I was debating between whether I want to be running Dreadbore or Terminate. What is this? Do they have a pump spell? No, they have a Verdant Catacombs in their hand. They just want to exile our Inquisition? Okay. Yeah, this is also turning off their Clothis is another relevant thing. I don't think we have a main deck answer to a Clothis, though, besides just not dying. Our opponent's hand is Verdant Catacombs, so we're not going to Thoughtseize them. Getting Season's Pyromancer into play. We're on a very short clock here, which is the unfortunate thing. Maybe we actually need to hope that Batter Skull can save us somehow. I just don't think we have enough time for that, because we're gonna even if we can cycle into a land, we're gonna play a land, we're gonna go to 4. We're gonna play a land, we're gonna go to 2. Okay, so actually if we hit running lands, then Batter Skull could save us. So actually that being the case, I think we Batter Skull and discard everything, or we Pyro and discard everything but the Batter Skull. And that was not the land we needed. So I believe we're probably just dead. Don't think we have an answer to Clothis in our main deck. We have no life gain, no nothing else. Celestial Purge can exile it out of the sideboard. That's about it. Yeah, so we can fetch for land, go to 2. Next turn we can play the Batter Skull, and we're dead. There's no way to gain life. There's no way to exile graveyards. I don't see a line here. There's no way we're killing our opponent. Yeah, this closest got us good. Let's go ahead and attack. Let's go ahead and play another Seasoned Pyromancer, see if this gets us anything remotely relevant. There's no way we're killing our opponent in time. They're gaining life every turn. There's a land. Sort of Feast and Famine out somehow. can, like, attack, untap our lands. There's no way we can use that to gain life of the Batterskull. And we're just dead to a lightning bolt. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I knew this closest was going to be a hard thing to beat. Close is also just really good against our Lingering Souls. It's pretty annoying. Okay, so these Celestial Purges are definitely coming in. What else are we going to want against them? Exiling Arbor Elves could be nice. Destroying Blood Moons could be okay. I don't know about that. I don't think Kolagon's command is doing too much. It's not. The shock is not doing too much. We're not destroying artifacts. Bolt again. Also, I think not doing too much. Actually, Fatal Push. Maybe Fatal Push comes out over Bolt. Bolt can kill Scavenging Ooze. Push can also kill Scavenging Ooze. I just don't know if we want that many of those effects. We're not sure about this Unearth. There's only 12 things we're unearthing. I think Unearth, definitely one of the things Unearth does is it can grab a Lurrus. If you're running Lurrus, we're not running Lurrus because we're running Stoneforge. Or, I mean, you can run Lurrus in your main deck. But then you're running Baubles, and I only have so much deck space. I don't think Kaya's really where I want to be at here. I actually don't think these Wear Tears are where we want to be at either, so I think I just bring these pushes back in. I'm a little worried we're overloading on this Bolt Push removal too much. So we're basically shading Arbor Elves. Arbor Elves and Scavenging Oozes. I don't think Ponza's running anything else too much that's going to get hit by that. How do I feel about Kaya? I think this is fine. We'll roll with this. There's also a mulligan to 5, so there's only so much we're getting done. I think this is fine. Like another land. I wonder if we want to be going up on lands. I feel like we're often really wanting to hit 3. And sometimes having a bit of a hard time doing it. Something to keep in mind. We're going to Blood Crypt Inquisition turn 1. And go from there. Okay. Spyro's our best card. But I'd really like to get the Stoneforge going. And so I don't want them to be shocking it. So I think I take the Bonecrusher Giant. Spyro's really good, though. Maybe I can play Young Pyromancer and get them to stomp it. I get a sword. What sword would I be getting? I think I just want to be putting Batterskull into play. Yeah, I think I'm gonna play for the Batterskull. There's a Stomping Ground. We are going to fetch a Sacred Foundry, untapped. And we're going to get our Batterskull. Alright. Stoneforge, I'm putting you in. Let's see how you do. It was kind of an interesting decision. I was thinking about if I weren't going to get the Batterskull, which sword would I get? Oh, opponent's just going to scoop to a Batterskull. That's very interesting. Did any of that change anything? I saw Obstinate Baloth. I saw Stomp. I saw Young Pyromancer, or Seasoned Pyromancer. I don't think that changed anything. Yeah, I was thinking about which sword I might get if I wasn't going to get the Batterskull. Sword of Fire and Ice is going to get protection from all the red removal. The Sword of Feast and Famine is going to get protection from all their chunky green creatures, like the Obstinate Bailout, all the Gargaroths. I don't know what the answer to that would have been. So I think it's fine. We can take away a threat. We can push something. Opponent with no turn 1 play on 7 cards. There's some possibility Inquisition misses, but it's definitely not missing here. What do we take here? Alright, well, our opponent's removal matches up pretty badly against Lingering Souls, so I don't think we need to worry about too much about that. Cinder Vines can kill the Sword of Feast and Famine, so I guess there's a little bit of thought to taking that. We could also strip their Seasoned Pyromancers and leave them with not too much. Yeah, I don't know how I feel. How do I feel about the Cinder Vines? I think, given that we have Lingering Souls to match up against our opponent's removal, I think we can do really good work with this sword. So we're going to take the Cinder Vines. I'm not sure if we're going to Thoughtseize away a Seasoned Pyromancer or not. Also, I don't know why I shocked with the Black Leaf, with the Blood Crypt when I have a Black Leaf list in my hand. That was just a mistake. Just 2 damage I don't need to be taking. So, like, on the one hand, we're stranding our opponent with this bad removal, but, like, they're going to be able to loot it away with Seasoned Pyromancer. So, in some ways, I kind of don't actually care that much. I think we should just take it out. They drew more Seasoned Pyromancers. Okay. So they're on 2 Spyros and 2 red removal spells. We'll play this tapped. I should probably be a little worried about Blood Moon. They have no land though, which is interesting. So they can't play Blood Moon this turn. They're gonna play a Spyro. And are they gonna discard? Let's see what they're gonna discard. I'm curious to see. Discarded a Spyro and a Lightning Bolt. So they still have a Flame Slash. So it's not going to be too helpful against Lingering Souls. Opponent is stopping our upkeep for an unknown reason. That's a Stoneforge Mystic. Yeah, so the Flame Slash is gonna stop. Flame Slash is gonna kill Batterskull token. I don't see any reason to play the Stoneforge now. I think we just wanna get our Lingering Souls tokens out. Not a Blood Moon. Please not a Blood Moon. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I should have played around that better. So on one hand, I would like to trade off creatures here. On the other hand, I need a body to equip the sword to. So I think I can just keep taking damage. Sword doesn't actually give protection from anything here. Yeah, I think we definitely punted by not playing around Blood Moon. I just was not... it was in my mind, I don't know, wasn't a priority in my head or something. But unless our opponent has 2 removal spells, we'll be able to have a 3/3 blocker, which can hold off our opponent's board, maybe? So our opponent only has 1 green. Okay, well, they're going to destroy the sword. So that's unfortunate. At this point, I think we start blocking, because our sword's gone. I think our opponent actually should have attacked first, because I wouldn't have blocked if I thought I was going to have a sword in play. Well, just my luck. Yeah, so there are a lot of things. I have a lot of good top decks here. Any red creature, that's really bad. Any red creature is good. Basic swamp or basic plains are good because I have plays. The basic swamp gives me lingering souls out of the graveyard. Basically anything but that. If I had played around Blood Moon properly, I think this is definitely a win, because I would have a basic... I would have played the Black Leafless turn 1, and... I guess I didn't have a fetch. I had this Marsh Flats in hand, though, so I would have fetched a swamp. I would have been able to flash back the Lingering Souls, and I would have had creature in play to be attacking with swords. I didn't mean to pass there. I guess it doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm dead. Okay. I lost this match. I still think... Like, I lost it to my own blunders, though. If I had played properly, I think that would have been a win. So I'm, like, kind of half chalking it up as a win. At least just in terms of, like, understanding how good Stoneforge Mystic is. And the whole equipment package. I think it was totally fine in that match. And I just kind of blew it. So, still, prognostics for Stoneforge Mystic, positive. This is 1-line hand. It's, you know, can't keep it. 2 lands, fine. We can keep this. We throw back maybe a Dreadbore. Because we're going to have Thoughtseize Bolt. Yeah, they can throw back Dreadbore. Our opponent's on 5. Mulliganing to 5, kind of indicative of, I don't know, decks like Tron maybe. But who really knows? We will as soon as we see our opponent's hand. Looks like we're back to Death's Shadow. So I think we have to take the Gurmag Angler again, just because we don't really have a good answer to it main deck. Opponent on Death's Shadow Fatal Push. They're going to be able to deal 5 damage to themselves with their lands, so we have a little bit of time to try to find something. Lightning Bolt might be able to snipe the Death Shadow. We're kind of interested in not playing the Pyromancer next turn because it'll just match up to the Fatal Push. Opponent drew something here, I guess. Drew a discard spell, maybe? Okay. I don't think Sticks here on Pyromancer because they have the Fatal Push. So they take the Bolt or the Rights. They do take the Iron Pyromancer. That's kind of strange to me, honestly. I mean, it does mean we're just doing actual nothing, but like you have the answer to it in your hand. Maybe they're just expecting the push is gonna be alive against something else. I mean, the Village Rights is stranded without a creature. The Bolt not really doing. I guess that's reasonable. Death Shadow's not gonna be running a Blood Moon, so I don't need to worry about that. That's the Blood Crypt. I drew a Thoughtseize. This is probably gonna take the Lightning Bolt, and then they can cast the Death Shadow. All right, all right. Good times, good times. So we need a red for a potential Seasoned Pyromancer. what do you know? We're only going to get one elemental out of this, but no, we're not casting this. Discarding it. Okay. So our opponent's hand is push and an unknown card. Okay, still push and an unknown card. Militaire Battle Rage. This represents the Death Shadow being a 5/5, so they're also going to be able to push our Seasoned Pyromancer. Yep, our opponent is doing pretty well here. We do happen to know that our opponent milled over Battle Rage though, so they're only going to have one more in their deck. If that, I think they run two. Maybe they run one. I don't actually know. But we should be able to chump block this Death Shadow for a while. This Thoughtseize. It's pretty dead right now, although our opponent can definitely get to a point where they're holding up a Stubborn Denial. So it can definitely be live later. Opponent really putting the hurt on themselves. Yep, push the Spyro. I think we can wait a turn before we block. Thought's he's doing nothing whatsoever. I'm going to block this turn, because I don't want to go to 5. 5 puts us in range of, like, Bolt, Snap, Bolt. One more land gets flashback the Seasoned Pyromancer, which is nice. Opponent 1 card in hand. We'll try to Thoughtseize it next turn. Lingering Souls would be really good here. I mean, Batter Skull's good if we can cast it. So our opponent puts us to 3. Maybe I should have Thoughtseize there. Yeah, our opponents picked our hand apart really well. That's what Thoughtseize does. Bolt. Nope. That's exactly not what we needed. We'll Thoughtseize for information. Like, land would have been fine. Any creature would have been fine. Just show me. I just want to see your hand. I want information. Come on. And then I will concede. Snapcaster for Thoughtscour? Yeah, my opponent's wasting their own time. It's fine with me. I guess Snapcaster Battle Rage is a line to keep in mind. I'd been thinking that that was pretty dead, but... okay, fine. You have a Cling to Dust. Same deal, we definitely want these. It's pretty against the Death Shadow. It's pretty against the Death Shadow. Bolt's maybe not so good. Village Art's maybe not so good. Might be kind of hard to get that off. Got a Ride, so I can cut an Unearth. Could cut a Kolaghan's. Yeah, I can get a Kolaghan's Command. That's fine. I think this Unearth is probably too cute. I run to go along with Luris. So I think I would be cutting that from future iterations of the deck. 2 lands. Yeah, this is fine. This is vulnerable to a Gurmag Angler, but we have Thoughtseize to try to keep that from happening. This Arid Mesa... I guess this can get a Godless Shrine. We'd like to have double red, but we do also want to have our first white. Street Wraith, okay. Okay. Got the Death Shadow covered, so I think we should take the Stubborn Denial. Kolaghan's Command is also kind of scary, but I don't think it makes... Maybe it does make sense to take that, because it kind of represents another Death Shadow later. And, like, killing a Pyromancer. I just figure the Stubborn Denial represents, like, something that is going to quote-unquote get Fatal Pushed because it's going to counter the Fatal Push. But maybe it doesn't. I could also just, you know, cut the problem off at its head and take the Death Shadow. Actually, really not sure what's right here. Like, if I try to take the most powerful card in the Kolaghan's Command, I can just totally see a situation where opponent is able to, like, Thoughtseize and Inquisition away our Fatal Pushes, and then just, they have the Death Shadow that we can't deal with. I'm going to take the Stubborn Denial. That, I don't know, it feels wrong. But the Stubborn Denial gives them the ability to... It gives them more control over how they're maneuvering things. And so I think taking that control away is positive for me. It's weird, right? Because, like, you want to not take the Death Shadow because you have it covered with a Fatal Push. But when you're playing against this deck, like, do you really have it covered? Kind of, like, not exactly, right? Because they have Inquisitions, Thoughtseizes, Stubborn Denials. So it's just not entirely clear what you actually have covered and what you don't. Klingnet has something that can hit our Lingering Souls, which is not exactly good. It's not good. They might cast it now. No, they're going to Thoughtseize now, okay. They might actually Thoughtseize our Lingering Souls and then eat it with the Cling to Dust. They can also Thoughtseize pushes if they think they're going to be able to push through with the Death Shadow. But I think that's going to be kind of hard for them to actually do. No, they're going to take a Fatal Push. Okay. Because they can Shock to 11 and play the Death Shadow. But they know about the Fatal Push. Maybe their plan is just to Kolaghan's Command it back and just make us use our Fatal Push. It's going to give us an Elemental, though. I'm just not going to cast it. Okay. Maybe they drew a Stubborn Denial. It's pretty much exactly not what we wanted to draw. So I think I am seeing one of the shortcomings of the Stoneforge pack in this deck. I think Pyromancer is a deck that wants to be able to operate on a pretty low land count, and the swords kind of demand running a reasonable number of lands. You can see the situation. I've seen the situation come up a couple times where I just don't have the mana in play to like play a sword and equip it, or you know, three mana to play a spell, to cast a spell that's just not having an impact on the board. It's not exactly, it's not great. And so I think this deck only running 21 mana sources, and you know, a lot of our spells being 1 mana spells, to go with the Young Pyromancer. I think that that tension is just not really working out. Also of note, our opponent's Kolaghan's command can smash our sword. This Plague Engineer is not going to be friendly. Okay. We are going to be able to play Lingering Souls, and they'll be able to live, but that Plague Engineer is not friendly. I think we actually... Well, I don't want to push this Engineer because there is a... Kolaghan's command over there. Yeah, our opponent has it covered pretty well. The Kolaghan's command covers the sword. The Cling sort of covers Lingering Souls. I cast the Lingering Souls, though. Our opponent hasn't seen the equipment or a Stoneforge yet, so I don't... They might just use the K command at some point to try to pick up a Death Shadow. I don't think it's reasonable to try to wait until 5 mana to Soul's Flashback in the same turn. So I think I kind of just have to cast this Lingering Souls in now. Because otherwise, what am I doing? I'm sitting around doing nothing. I guess I'm kind of... No, I actually... I'm okay putting 2 Lingering Souls into play because my opponent's at 6. I'm fine. I would be fine getting a second mountain. I think I need to get red mana for Seasoned Pyromancer. So I want to get Blood Crypt. Yeah, so I think future Stoneforge decks I'm going to look at are going to be a little more mid-rangey. It makes sense that this Pyromancer deck wants to operate on a low land count because you're running Young Pyromancer, and so you want to be running a lot of cheap spells. If you look at them, I can pull up the deck. We're running all these 1 mana spells because we want to trigger Young Pyromancer, but that means that we're operating only 21 lands, and it's just really hard to get value off of these swords in these cases. Yeah, that's fine. It works out putting the Stoneforge into play and getting the Batterskull Skull and just putting the Batterskull Skull straight into play, and you have the 4 mana lifelink. But when that's not how things are working out, when you're just drawing these swords naturally, they really just clog up your hand. Then you're also discarding them with the Spyros. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, even if Stoneforge just draws a card, well, that's pretty bad. 2 mana 1/2 that draws a card that gets discarded Spyro. It's not great. As far as this game, we're kind of doing okay. Our opponent's on a clock. They just found a Gurmag Angler, which makes things a lot worse. Our opponent has Death Shadow in hand. Death Shadow in hand that they're just stubbornly not casting because we have a Fatal Push, which makes perfect sense. I don't think we want to block that. Lingering Souls would be a great top deck. Lightning Bolt would be a great top deck. We're going to play this Sword of Feast and Famine, hoping our opponent will Kolaghan's command it so we can play a Sword of Feast and Famine that will be a blocker against the Gurmag Angler. Did I board out all my bolts? I did board out all my bolts. So equipping this is in theory lethal, so our opponent has to K-command it. Trying to work out if we attack. I don't think we can attack. Yeah, so we're gonna chump the Angler here. We're probably gonna lose our other spirit to the Kolgon's command. So, hitting another Lingering Souls for more blockers would be fine. We also don't necessarily even have to click a K command right now. I was sort of hoping to put together a line where I play this sort of Feast and Famine, get another creature and play it somehow. I just have another Gurmag Angler. Okay. Well, this looks pretty bad. Yeah, no, we're dead here. Okay. It's kind of unfortunate. I feel like Death Shadow's well, we did really well the first game we played against it. I think Lingering Souls was a lot of that. But it's kind of interesting. We've seen this league several ways that our opponents have just been able to check Lingering Souls pretty well. With Cling to Dust, with Clothis, Scavenging Ooze. Lingering Souls is a lot worse when you're not converting the back half of it. So, be interested to see how Lingering Souls continues to perform. Just in general, thinking about decks that I would want to run in these sort of Stoneforge Trial decks, like Lingering Souls is a very natural fit. It's just making a lot of creatures that you can equip swords to. This deck, I think, definitely is suffering from a lower land count. Sounds totally fine. And thinking about how I might remake this deck, I mean, I think you have to change the deck pretty dramatically. I don't think you can put Stoneforge in a Pyromancer shell, just because you need to be running so many cheap spells, and the quantity of cheap spells that you're running means that you don't want to be running as many lands. So I think the deck would have to change pretty dramatically. Okay, so I mean, this Inquisition could take essentially either creature, and push will hit the other one. Storming Entity is what we need to be kind of scared of, but I think this means that we the turn 1 creature to take a little less damage. And this is fine. We'll Stoneforge next turn. Sort of Fire and Ice on Stoneforge Mystic is probably pretty good. Is it better than Batterskull? Unclear. We can get a basic Plains here. That is not what I meant to click on. Crap. Oh, the punts today, the punts. I mean, I can get... Well, it's going to change my sequencing pretty dramatically. Not even sure our opponent plays a Sprite Dragon here. Okay, I guess they do. So this at least lets us go push, get an Elemental, Stoneforge. Okay. I feel like... I guess they want a Manamorphose. Yeah, okay, no, that play makes sense. So I'm going to push you. Not sure if this line ends up being better or worse for us. Either way, it's water under the bridge, it happened. Let's make sure we get a Plains here. I think we want Godless Shrine. No, we want Sacred Foundry. Then we're going to Stoneforge Mystic. We're going to get, yes. So the thing about the Batterskull is that one prowess trigger with a Stormwing Entity trades for it, and it's really not unreasonable to think that our opponent might be able to double prowess it and just actually trade with the Batterskull token, which would be pretty lame, which is why I'm thinking about getting a Sword of Fire and Ice as protection. It gives something protection from our opponent's entire deck. It'll kill pretty quickly. But given their opponent's probably going to have to play the Manamorphose to get Storming Entity, I think worrying too much about how exactly our opponent is going to kill a Batterskull token is not too important. Yeah, so this I think is just going to be Manamorphose and Storming Entity. It's the Arid Mesa down. It's the Manamorphose down. So they've got a lot of cards. Yeah, we don't know anything in their hand now. The Scry is going to go both top and a Soulscar Mage. Okay. Alright, well, we have no good attacks, so just going to play this Young Pyromancer and pass. I think we should be in pretty good position with this Batterskull. Our opponent's going to get a pretty big hit in, but we're going to gain life next turn. If our opponent's attacking, we'll have a pretty good attack on the backswing. I mean, I guess maybe our opponent just completely goes off. This is shooting me. I mean, so we're going to be at a virtual 5. Okay. I mean, this is scary. We're at a virtual 4 right now. We're at a virtual 1 with the mutagenic growth. Okay, I mean, I almost got there. I assume they are going to cast the mutagenic growth. And, like, they may even just be able to kill us the next turn. I mean, I can't block. Okay, they'll hold it for the next turn. I guess mutagenic growthing the Soulscar Mage lets them block the Batterskull. That's pretty good. Yeah, put that on the battlefield. Yeah, because this is going to make it, it's going to be 1-2. So it's going to become a 4-5. Ooh, that's really good. Okay, so I think I can just attack with everything now. Because this Soulscar Mage is definitely blocking this germ. Maybe I'll leave the 1 elemental back. So I really expect this to block here. And our opponent could trade off with the Young Pyromancer. No, they are going to make this play. Okay. I was thinking they could save the mutagenic growth to hit the Storming Entity, because that would just be a lot more damage, but this is fine, this is fine. Because now we're just going to cast Lingering Souls, and our opponent doesn't know about this, so that's pretty good. He's going to block the Storming Entity very nicely. One more land gets equipped to the Batterskull to something, and then we're pretty much unkillable. Bedlam Reveler. That's pretty good. You know, I always thought the Storming Entity was much more of just like a purely elemental thing, but I never really saw this bird in the art. It's much more bird than I thought. I mean, it's still clearly like an elemental bird, but like, I thought it was just like a bunch of clouds, like in a very amorphous state. But no, there's a bird in there. Next turn we'll have flashback on Lingering Souls, and we can play this as a Stoneforge Mystic for a Sword of Fire and Ice, probably. Sword of Fire and Ice is going to be really strong, of course. we have good attacks on our turn? Probably not. The Storming Entity and the Bedlam... Well, it depends where our opponent attacks with the Storming Entity. But the Storming Entity and the Bedlam Reveler are just going to eat 2 creatures that attack, which would probably be the Young Pyromancers. We're actually going to have a lot of creatures in play, especially after we cast this Lingering Souls, because we're going to get 2 more elementals off the Young Pyromancers. I could Stoneforge. I could choose to not cast... No, I was thinking I could cast the Stoneforge and then use the other Stoneforge to put the Sword of Fire and Ice in play. But I only have 1 mana, so that line doesn't work. If I top deck white mana, if I top deck untap white mana, then I'm putting the Batterskull on something and attacking. Probably on the Spirit token. Anyway, going back to talking a bit about this deck, and just sort of how I feel Stoneforge Mystic fits into it. Just like thinking about how I might rebuild it. I think, like I said, I think it really has to just not be a Young Pyromancer deck. I think we need to take out a lot of these spells. I think, Village Rites, Cling to Dust, quite this quantity of discard spells in the Unearth need to go. I think it just needs to be a more mid-rangey deck. I think that's where we need to be positioned to be able to take advantage of Stoneforge Mystic. What exactly the deck looks like, I have no idea. I suspect it's probably a much more mid-rangey deck. Probably a deck that looks a lot more like Jund. It's running things like... I mean, you're not running like actual Bloodbraid Elf, but, running your sort of standard 4-mana mid-rangey creatures. I think we need a block here just in case there's like mutagenic growth into Bolt or something like that. We've got plenty of spirits, so we can spend 1 on a chump block. Our opponent's building out a board here. But we hit untapped mana, so I think we're definitely just... This equips for 5, right? Yeah. So I think we're definitely just doing this. We're equipping this here. And we're going attacking. Ooh. Well, that's irritating. Okay. You got me there. Well, I guess that's that. I definitely can't afford to attack now. Okay, so now with the Storming Entity, we're dead to a Bolt. Yeah, okay. Interesting. I definitely should have figured this deck runs Gutshot. So I could have equipped it to, like, Stoneforge and attacked. Yeah, it was really awkward that I tapped out so that I couldn't cast Lingering Souls to have another blocker. Interesting. I was figuring that the Spirit would make a 2-turn clock. And it would be a blocker for the Storming Entity. Yeah, I mean, if I put it on the Stoneforge Mystic, it's just definitely gaining 4 life. Yeah, I guess considering Gutshot, I definitely should have made that play. Okay, so this is going to be able to exile some things. That's going to be pretty good. Celestial Purge is going to be pretty good. I think Kolaghan's Command is... I mean, against a deck with Gutshot, I think you just can't rely on it to hit. I think Thoughtseize is pretty bad. Do I even want Inquisition? I think Inquisition is okay. I just don't think we need all this Thoughtseize stuff. Given they're taking these out, we can bring Collective Brutality in. This is definitely not always going to hit, against a Gutshot deck, but it's fine. It only costs 2 mana against K Commands 3, and I think that's fine. This is 4 lands. We're going to be able to exile 1 thing if something is good enough. There's only 1 piece of interaction. I mean, what am I really hoping for? Like, I'm hoping for, like, a bolt or a push or something. But, like, if I mulligan this hand hoping for a bolt or a push, like it's basically the Celestial Purge. Seasoned Pyromancers are going to draw me into stuff. I'm actually going to try it. I also, like, kind of don't mind having a little bit of land-heavier hands so that I'll be able to do things with my, Stoneforge. Of course, like, if one of these Seasoned Pyromancers was a Stoneforge, I'd be a lot happier with this hand. Right now, these lands are just not actually doing too much. But I think this will be fine. Alright. This can come in tapped, because we have no 1 mana play. Past you. Might be a little bit of a tell that we're playing this tapped. You know, knowing their opponent is very likely to play a 1 mana creature, we would really like to be able to push it. But really interesting here if we want to try to Collective Brutality this. And I think we can. It doesn't die to Gut Shot or to Mutagenic Growth, but I think it's okay. We'll force them to spend it. I think we're going to discard a land only. Ooh, and it worked. Okay, Kozilek's Return. That's interesting. And Surgical Extraction. So Surgical Extraction is going to let our opponent cast this Stormwing entity, which I kind of don't want to let them do. Kozilek's Return going to be really good against Seasoned Pyromancer. Yeah, I'm pretty short on answers to Storming Entity right here, so I think I actually do go with the Surgical Extraction. Interesting if our opponent didn't F6, they could have Surgical Extraction the Godless Shrine in our graveyard, because I think the escalating is a cost. Of course, if I take the Surgical and they just draw Manamorphose, then this whole thing was for naught. But I think I just want them to not be casting Storming Entities, like, anytime particularly soon. But I did get their Soulscar Mage, which is nice. Celestial Purge goes down in value a lot now. Actually, no, it doesn't, because I want to get rid of this. Never mind. Never you mind. I knew they had that. It's not doing too much right now. It would be nice to put into play. Would I rather put this into play over casting a Spyro? I mean, our opponent has K-Return in hand now, so, and ready to go. I guess they just sacked a land that they would have needed to do that, but that's fine. Yeah, we'll go ahead and play this. Go ahead and eat some stuff. Deals damage to target player equal to the number of cards that player owns in exile. Bolt, Kaya. And land and Storming Entity. Okay. Okay. You got it. Couldn't stop that from going off forever, but it's fine, it's fine. Scry was 1 top, 1 bottom. We're going to fetch out Does this deck run Blood Moon? I really doubt it does, but maybe I should play around that a little bit. Ooh, Lingering Souls. Yeah, playing Spyro, trying to force Lingering Souls, I think is fine. We can leave Lingering Souls in the graveyard. A couple new ones. Young Pyromancer's cool. I don't really want to exile my own Spyro. And I'm not going to play Young Pyromancer into the Kozilek's Return. We'll see how our opponent's going to spend the Kozilek's Return on just a Spyro and friends. Let's Kaya down. That's fine. Gut shot. Me? Oh, to play their other storming entity. Okay, fine. Yeah, this is pretty bad, because our opponent has our board pretty well under control with his Kozilek's Return. And they're playing a Soulscar Mage. Okay. Really need like a bolt for these storming entities. I think we should have to pass here. We're gonna be taking 6 a turn. It's really not good. Like we can rebuild our board pretty well. Like our opponent's end step, I think we're gonna exile the Seasoned Pyromancer for a couple tokens, but then our opponent's probably gonna take command in combat. Actually, do they even do that? It's not clear to me. It's a Fatal Push, but that's not gonna do anything about the storming entities. I wonder if this card was specifically designed to be 5 mana. Alright, is this the K return? Nope. Just taking it on the chin. They probably have to do it next turn. Out of the fear of Bolt. So I'm going to 6. Okay, now they're going to do it. So that's fine. And I go to 4. I go to dead. Okay. You got me. Storming entity. Storming entity. Okay, well, 1 and 3. Seeing some shortcomings of the deck, like I've talked about. We'll be back with more Stoneforge Trials in the future, but I think not quite with a Pyromancer shell like this. This is sad. Oh boy. I guess we're gonna have to keep this. We're gonna put back a Pyromancer. We're gonna put back maybe a push. Let's hope this Cling is gonna do something for us. Misty. Could just be some generic blue deck. Some sort of Uro pile. Is an Uro Pyro going to be in the 1-3 bracket? Uro's quite the card. I don't see an Uro at all this league. Looks like straight up control. So we'll see what we're able to do against blue-white. Playing for 50 play points here. If we don't draw land, just hope this Cling to Dust draws us into something. Unfortunately, we're not going to exile much of relevance with it. Maybe affecting our opponent's ability to snap path, but no, we did draw land. Yeah, I'm pretty okay, actually. I can probably hold back here. Should try to get an elemental off this Pyromancer. Because I'll definitely have a spell to cast along with it. And the equipment makes me value having elementals in play. So I think this is okay. My opponent not really showing me counter magic yet. At this point, maybe I cast it. May very well get pathed, but can't sit around for forever. Yeah, I'm just changing my mind here. I don't know that's necessarily wrong. Opponent's gonna make a 1/1 shark here. Looks like. Yep. Gives us a target for our fatal push. Well, that's something. I want a mountain here. We have two of our equipment in hand, so we're at least going to be able to get a third one of them. We will get our Sword of Fire and Ice. And I'm not sure if we're going to push this shark or not. Opponent Mystic Sanctuarying for a path? Okay. Seems pretty good against my Stoneforge. There is the path. Yep, we'll go ahead and get a whatever. Don't really care about this fatal push. Actually, I really should have clung the path that they were trying to get back. This apparently is not going to resolve. Sad face. And I think this match is pretty much this game is pretty much over. Okay, well now I can do this properly. No, do not get your cryptic command back. Cool. I drew a pretty useless red boar. Our opponent probably has like some sort of fairy in their deck somewhere, but it's not doing much right now. Start playing out some of our swords. If we can ever like assemble some sort of Voltron here, that'd be pretty cool. Opponent wasting cryptic commands on this is fine. I don't know what we've revealed to them. I don't think we revealed the Batterskull to them, so they might just think that we don't have it. But I mean, the Batterskull is the one that we care more about having. That was a top with the opt. I'm sort of holding this Fatal Push because I'm hoping that they'll play a bigger shark. Like I just really don't care about this 1 damage a turn. Just not relevant. Jace? Okay, well that gets Dreadboard, maybe. We'll go ahead and fetch with Bloodstainmire. Go to my turn. See if Dreadboard works. See if Spyro resolves. Spyro resolves, I guess I just scored Sword Fatal Push. Interesting, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm interested in having the Batterskull still. Just because the Batterskull represents a creature. Just drawing lands. Not too cool, not too cool. Our opponent is on, like, not too many cards in hand for being the control deck. I haven't kept track of if they have that path in hand or not. I don't think they do. Sure, I guess I will cast the Thoughtseize. What do you have in hand, good sir? Or madam? Wonder if they're thinking about countering this. Wonder if they're thinking about making a large shark in response. I'm just gonna counter it. Okay. That's fine. Let's go ahead and attack. This could be a big shark. Sure. It's going to eat my Seasoned Pyromancer. Oh, it's going to eat a token. Because they don't want me to make more elementals. That's fine, because we will resolve a Batterskull. And we can, in theory, gain back all the life our opponent's able to hit us for. Somehow, I doubt that will quite work out. But it was worth a try. Yep. Okay. Let's see if our opponent will allow us to kill Teferi. Attack Teferi. Okay, Teferi down. Let's see if we can play this Batterskull. Nope, apparently not. We do have Klinktos in the graveyard, but not 4 mana to do anything with it, so that's unfortunate. We can bolt down the shark after our opponent taps out for the cryptic. Like, we're pretty even on resources here. So it's not like a complete blowout. Like 13-8, and we've got, you know, a 2-2 and a 1-1 to a 2-1 and a 1-1. Oh, you have a Stoneforge. Okay. All right. Well, this is a lost game here. For control, I think we want some Goblin Rabble Masters. We want a boil. I think bolts are not as much where we want to be at. I think the Unearth not so much where we want to be at. I think Village Right's pretty bad against control. Could use Nail Spell Bombs maybe. See how that works out. So I think maybe a bit of a sneak peek at some other decks I might try out for the Stoneforge Trials. Looking at Eldrazi Taxes. One of the problems with Eldrazi Taxes is that you run Leonin and Arbiter to prevent anybody from searching their deck. And running Stoneforge Mystic in that deck is a bit of a nombo. I have a feeling it might just be powerful enough that you might still go ahead and do it. Or, you know, you can play your Stoneforge Mystic and pay 2 mana to be able to search. There's definitely anti-synergy there. But I could see still doing it. You can like if they're both in your opening hand, you can order your Stoneforge first and then your Leonin Arbiter. It might be bad, but I think we'll still try it out. Or maybe it's better to just take the Leonin Arbiters out altogether. Not sure. That's something I'm looking at. I might just take some sort of white Eldrazi deck that's running, you know, the Eldrazi Displacer along with the sort of crew of Thought-Knot Seers and Reality Smashers and Matter Reshapers and such. I'm thinking about trying some sort of collected company deck, some sort of green-white company, or I don't know what exactly there, how that's going to work. But it's just, you know, thinking about, you know, broad speaking archetypes that you might want to run with Battle Skulls and sort of Feast and Famines and such. Maybe the Voted Devastation company decks. Those are some things I'm looking at. I might try sort of like Abzan. It's kind of like Jund, but cut the red and add the white. You know, we'll lose stuff like Bloodbraid Elf, and we'll lose, you know, Lightning Bolts, but we can gain back Stoneforge Mystic Paths, some other cards. So we'll see how that goes. Again, these are all just ideas. I don't know what's actually going to work out. I don't know what I'm actually going to end up playing, but those are some of the decks I'm thinking about trying to build. Also not, you know, completely down on this deck. I don't think we want to be doing the Pyromancer thing. At least I think it's unlikely. I might revisit it a bit. Just like I said, I think the number of lands is kind of a constraint that we're running up against. Maybe I'll come back to it after I've tried out some other decks that are a bit more mid-rangey and see if I feel like there's a way that I can make it work. As far as this game, I'm not too happy to see this hand. I was hoping to be able to stick a Rabble Master and kind of ride that to victory if my opponent was going to stumble a bit, but they've got paths up for it. They've got a Mana Leak up. They've got a Teferi. So I'm not sure how exactly I want to deal with these threats. Lingering Soul is going to be pretty good against all of these. Kind of thinking maybe then I just want to take the Mana Leak because that's going to hit something eventually. I mean, Teferi minusing on Lingering Souls, like the other Lingering Souls is going to... Yeah, I think I like taking the Mana Leak here. Next turn will be Lingering Souls. And that should just be pretty good. I may also just try brewing up with just a lot of different decks in general. I've never been much of a brewer, but having this position, as I have it, to try out a lot of different things on the stream, on my YouTube channel, it's definitely a lot more of a consideration to try some interesting things. We'll just go ahead and do that, and I think I can just go ahead and flashback this Souls now. Don't think my opponent's going to be running like Wraths. Not like a Stoneforge deck. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'll get blown out by a Supreme Verdict, but we'll see. Not interested in playing Rebel Master into a pair of paths. I think I'm just trying to ride these lingering soul tokens to victory. Cryptic, bounce a spirit, draw a card. Okay. Seems fine to me. That's a Batterskull. Okay. Well, let's, you discard a card, destroy target artifact. How's that sound? Path down. I mean, I guess I play Young Pyromancer to force out a path and then try to play the Rakkamarmtg. I don't really have a spell that can go with it. I also only have single red. Not sure how that happened. I guess I never fetched, so that's how that happened. Yep, that's fine. Yes. Like a mountain. It's a Field of Ruin, that's fine. Do I Batterskull over Rebelmaster? What do I play here? I think I'll play the Batterskull. No idea what the right line is, but my reasoning with the Batterskull is that it's like the Rebelmaster I'd want to be playing pre-combat. Playing it pre-combat tips my hand a little bit more. It's a very, very marginal edge, I think, but it's also giving me lethal this turn. The Rebelmaster would also give me lethal if I played it pre-combat. What do I not lose to here? I mean, any removal spell is fine. This could be a Cryptic. This could be any path on the Germ token. Could be Snapcaster, path on the Germ token, okay. Sure. Okay, so you're taking 4. I can equip the Batterskull. I think I'll just equip the Batterskull. We'll present lethal next turn. Cool. I think we run it back. Sure. This is a bad hand. This hand is not particularly great. It's 2 Thought Seizes, but a lot of these cards are just going to be dead. I mean, I guess this is where we're at. I think we're putting back a push and a boil, a sword, Probably a boil. Like, all these cards are not good in the matchup as it is. Yeah. Thoughtseize you. Okay, well, I think it just has to be the Teferi. Not really going to have an answer to that. We can push the Stoneforge. Yeah. There's the opt. Basic plains, Stoneforge. Fetching up Batterskull, okay. So we need to draw a K command at some point. Let's get that out of here. Buy us some time for the Batterskull. Next turn will be, I guess, Stoneforge. Sure. Let's get Blood Crypt. Yes. And let's get us a Batterskull. Unless our opponent has something to say about it. Nope. We might have some sort of Batterskull mirror here. We might possibly be able to equip a sort of Feast and Famine to our Germ. Don't know. Okay. That is a removal spell. You got it. Our opponent also not too far off of hard casting their Batterskull. I guess we should probably Thoughtseize your Batterskull. Spell Snare. Okay. And still nothing to do here. I actually don't hate our position here. Like, our opponent, there's definitely a lot of haymakers our opponent can top deck, but if we just get land, we can start playing Lingering Souls tokens. There's a lot of things that can happen here. This is fine. We'll keep our red mana. Still fine, still fine. Non-red land, unfortunately, doesn't let us cast Seasoned Pyromancer, but I think Lingering Souls is what we want to be doing anyway. We really just want to cast this in now. Try to hit a land. Okay, okay. I guess that was a reason to not target an opt. That's really interesting. Should have thought of that, should have thought of that. Still very live here. Opponent doesn't seem to have a whole lot of relevant stuff. Spell Snare not doing much. I'm just treading water here. I think our opponent just hasn't played the Scalding Tarn. Just telling us there's a dead card in there, along with the Spell Snare. This looks like a Shark Typhoon. Hard cast Shark Typhoon. Okay, well, that's going to slam the door pretty quick, and we just can't cast anything. Putting an op back, which is going to make a pretty small shark, but it's a shark nonetheless. And I think we can pack this one in pretty soon. Opt again. Yeah, I mean, Lingering Souls still might be able to get us somewhere, but that Shark Typhoon is just gonna cause us all sorts of headaches in the long term. Right, I knew there were spells in there. Alright. Alright, I think we can pack this one in. Alright, well, this was our first attempt at running the Stoneforge Trials. If you missed at the beginning, the plan here is, I think Stoneforge Mystic is a really powerful card. I don't necessarily think it should be banned again, but I do think it was pretty dangerous to bring back off the banned list. I think that just the ability to slide in 4 Stoneforge Mystic and a Batter Skull and a sword and maybe 2 swords, I think having that in format is just a kind of dangerous thing to have around. And so my plan is to try doing exactly what I just suggested that you do. Just try slotting in some Stoneforge and some equipment into a bunch of different decks and see how they perform. And so this was sort of the first installment of that, where I tried picking up an old favorite, Mardu Pyromancer, which pretty much fell off the map after Faithless Looting was banned. Trying to see if Stoneforge Mystic could reinvigorate that deck, and I think what I found is that it's kind of difficult to do that. Pyromancer likes to operate on a pretty low land count because you're running Young Pyromancer and a lot of pretty cheap spells, and so it makes it difficult to efficiently use this equipment when you're having a hard time even casting a Sword of Fire and Ice out of your hand. So I think this is probably not the home for Stoneforge Mystic, but I am interested in trying out other decks with Stoneforge Mystic. We will see how that goes in future installments. I'm only going to be running through one league tonight because I have to go run somewhere. But that was Stoneforge Mystic Mardu Pyromancer. And I'll be back another time. I hope you'll catch me on Twitch or on YouTube. Thanks for watching.